And we're we're dancing.
Yeah, we really need to counter that. That is not good. Hey, Izzy, how you doing? Welcome, everybody, to 302 of a Kind. We would like to redirect you from work to
the weekend.
That's us.
Prost, Mark. Oh, nice. Bavarian style.
Bavarian style out of a Hofbräuhaus Las Vegas glass. Yes.
It's cool. Cheers.
Don't judge me.
Is it plastic?
Mm-hmm. No, real glass.
Okay.
I'm a self-respecting Bavarian. I wouldn't do that. We have an exciting show today. We have a great show for you guys today. So because we have a fantastic guest, and I want to pull him in almost right away, but I want to show you something, because actually last time we started something, because I told you guys I'm starting to explore magic tricks with my kids, and it was actually a very nice feature, and some people were talking like saying something about it. So I want to share my news trick with you guys. Let me prepare real quick, because it's a little bit hard. Wait for it. Okay. Whoa.
No. Yeah. Whoa! What is happening?
See, no wires, nothing.
What?
Oh man!
You gave it away then.
Kids love it, and it's like,
I love it.
It's like if somebody's coming over, I'm doing this, and they're like, "What the hell? What's going on?" And I'm like, always great laughter. So if you want to try it yourself, just put like a little plastic.
Oh, you made it yourself.
And then.
Okay, I'm doing that tonight.
Awesome, with Armin. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Just don't have him watch the show. By the way, no. I see. I assume you're not in the office, so I assume you have a new green screen.
I do. What do you think?
The office look, and then people actually think, "Oh, I'm in the office, of course." I'm sitting on my desk, of course, right?
Yeah. I'm in the Ryte campus kitchen, which is the best place on the planet. Everyone knows that. And even before I worked at Ryte, I used to always lots of times come over to attend the Friday after work beers because they're so legendary.
That is actually true. Yeah, that's actually true. And this is actually the reason why we did that show at 4 o'clock on Friday to actually lead over into our beer o'clock at 5. And then Corona started, and now we're still sitting at home. But nevertheless, it's great you're joining us either on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Tinder. I don't know where. Like we're broadcasting to everywhere. So let us know where you're watching our show. Just put it in the comments. We see everything here. Armin Ginchel is here. Hi, Armin. I can
Armin.
Promote you into the stream, which is pretty awesome. Fancy banners. We love StreamYard. But without much further ado, because today is not about us, today is about a very special person. And actually, a guy, I love this guy. And he has been our employee number 4 at Ryte.
Wow.
He is the chapter lead engineering at Ryte. So he has literally seen everything. Everything, and also has taken the whole journey with us for over 8 years now. He's now not living in Munich anymore. He's actually leading our Vietnam office. He got married in Vietnam. He's really happy in Vietnam. But today he's not tuning in from Vietnam. He's actually tuning in from Gelsenkirchen because he's such a big Schalke 04 fan that he just has to come to Gelsenkirchen every once in a while from Vietnam. That's some spirit. So without much further ado, please let me introduce you guys to the famous Danny Linden.
Danny.
That's the best introduction I ever got in my life so far.
He does the best ones.
Yeah. It's very sad. It's very sad.
Marcus, you know how sad my life is, so.
By the way, he also has his green screen. I mean, like obviously he's sitting in his $100 million mansion and not in his children room in his apartment in Gelsenkirchen. I mean, like obviously this is just green screen displaying his old children room. Yeah.
Of course, I didn't sit here in my old children room in my hometown when I was young, and this is not the room where I started my first website. No, this would be too funny. No, this is a green screen so that nobody get disappointed to see all the gold and Gucci stuff behind me.
What? Oh man.
Okay, let's go back to topic.
Let's go back to the topic. Let's talk about what are you drinking? You know the rules in this show. You actually have to have a drink in your hand to make it worthwhile.
Of course. So,
definitely helps.
As you mentioned, I sit here I'm here in the house of my family in my hometown, and besides me, nobody here drinking any kind of alcohol, no beer, no wine, nothing. So the best I found, and I'm not sure if this would in this moment already the last minutes I worked for Ryte when Marcus is seeing this. So the closest drink I have in the direction of beer is Vitamals Sport.
What? What is that?
The closest drink I could find to beer. So
that's the next best thing to alcohol is a Vitamals Sport.
Yeah. Is it like cola?
I mean, and to be very clear, the Sport was not something I decided to buy. It's like, but I
was just about to say this. You're not the sporty type. Let's say it like this.
No. Yeah, that's why I buy it. That's why I bought it, right? Because if you're sporty, you don't need it. But on the other side, I bring some content today, so I hope it's still okay to join even with this drink.
It is,
of course. With whatever drink,
mine is actually alcohol free, but don't tell anyone.
What?
Don't say. Oh no! Yeah, pure white beer. Yeah. I'm a perfect German.
You can drink what you want. All good. Prost. Thanks, Denny, for being here.
Andy is loving it. Andy is loving it. So
yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and it's what is isotonic in English?
Isotonic. Yeah.
To be honest, my whole life I never understand what isotonic means, but it sounds healthy. So it's isotonic. So
it's isotonic.
It's like a big marketing thing to get people to drink blue liquids. It's isotonic. So it's good for you.
It's after sport. How you can
it doesn't. Okay, so you want to tell me this drink didn't replace the sport part? That was my idea when I bought it.
Okay, let's talk about something you actually know. Let's talk about SEO, right? Let's talk about SEO. By the way, we got so many people here joining in. We got Philly Land. Hi, Philly Land. Thanks for watching. It's actually watching on Periscope, so I guess that's Twitter. We got Tobias Schmitz, who can also do magic. I can make all sites disappear in Google. Just need access to the website's backend.
But SEO jokes. Love it.
Got a show like this. That was awesome. We have Timo Schertl saying hello. Hey, Timo.
Hey, Timo.
We have Armin who watches via LinkedIn. Obviously, we also have Kate watching. Hey, Kate. Hey, Danny Linden. Got some fans here. We have Leon Otto. Izzy, it's malt beer. Not really yummy in the sports variant. It's malt beer. It's actually this is it. That's the malts. This is actually
This is healthy.
I thought it was like a cola drink.
Roasting the beer.
Yeah. So technically, I'm not sure if this counts as beer, but maybe close enough.
Does it have a percentage of alcohol?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
That's fine.
And we got Juan Carlos Martinez Sanchez. Greetings from Mexico. Greetings to Mexico.
Greetings.
We are highly envious of Mexico. Nice. So if you're watching us on whatever platform, just say hi. We want to put you into the stream here. We're really thankful for everybody watching the show. Yeah, hello everyone from Dania Bushikir. Hello Dania. Thanks for watching. So let's make it worth for these people who actually work. We
always do.
And we get a great segment with Danny because, as you've probably already heard, because we've shared it all over social media, we actually had a big project going on, really getting the Ryte.com website to 100% Google Web Vitals and Lighthouse scores. And Danny was the lead of that project and has actually succeeded. And today we want to tell you all about it. We actually did this show in German last week on Clubhouse, and it was a huge hit. It was the most ever watched and listened to show we ever had, which, interestingly enough, I had like the littlest
interaction
when I was talking. And this was the best show. So this should really give me something to think about. Obviously, I won't think about that, but nevertheless, you can really look forward to some really cool info from Danny. This is really awesome. But let's check out the news real quick because we have some news. There's some news like I really like. stirring up the SEO
Well,
community.
yeah.
Right? And since you're already here, let's talk about that stuff as the three of us. By the way, Markus Hartmann, Servus, hallo nach Nürnberg, und Mariana Bobas, also watching in from Clubhouse every day. Hi Mariana, great you're here.
And it's really funny because I started the presentation as like, as like a big thank you to Denny for our early Christmas present.
Okay, I need to talk with Armin from Engineering later because I know where this picture comes from. This old picture from when it's 2000. This is the old office, right?
2012.
It's amazing.
The video? Does Armin have the video?
Yeah, he showed it to me.
Oh my God,
pretty sure
video.
I'm pretty sure if someone has the video, then Armin.
Yeah, he has it. He showed it me when we made the meme presentation for the Christmas party.
Yeah. I have no idea who is this guy in the picture who gets.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's saying it was 2013, so 1 year later. But nevertheless, this was awesome. This was the best Christmas thing we ever had. And also, actually, Denny has been the star of our 404 page for a couple of years. So he was like, when you actually accounted a 404. Have you ever seen this, Izzy?
No.
Oh my God, that was awesome. So when you got to a 404 page on onpage.org, you would actually have Denny there, and he's like, oh, let me try to figure this out. You're on the wrong page. Let me redirect you to the homepage. And he's pressing a button, and you get to the homepage, and that kind of stuff. And there were like 5-6 different videos we were playing for that 404 era. Correct, right, Denny? I haven't seen it in like years.
Yeah, I know some of the videos are still online because they are hosted on Vimeo, but I'm not sure if they are public listed. I'm
gonna check later.
3 or 4 weeks ago, Andrea, one of our front-end chapter lead, he sent me a link and he asked like, Danny, what is this? And then I saw some of them are still online, but I think they are not listed on Vimeo, but they are still available if you know the URL.
By the way, Kate says we still have the video, so
yes,
you really got to be nice to Kate. You know, she got the video. And we got. You should use some vowels, man. Hallo aus Darmstadt. Kann man sich das später nochmal anschauen? Yes, you can. You can look at this later. We're actually saving this. This is not like Clubhouse. This is gonna, stay on forever. So
we have a lot of Germans today. I mean, that's really cool.
And also, look at this. Bernd Wehi, greetings from Austria. Yeah. Greetings to Austria. So it's not only Germans. Actually, he is German, but at least he's watching from Austria. But we also got Timo.
Yes.
From
hey,
Vietnam.
Timo.
Hey to Vietnam. Hey, Timo. Oh, Bastian Brückmann. Look at that. He can even write some vowels. That's awesome. Servus, Sebastian. Cool. Thanks for watching.
Cool. Yeah.
Much better 404 than the server Streifchen Hörnchen from Systrix. I don't even know what it is.
What's a server Streifchen?
We should really reactivate these videos again. They were a huge hit, and I really love this. But let's spill the tea. Let's talk about some news here.
Let's talk about the news, and then let's get Danny on to chat about the Lighthouse 100. Okay, so first of all, there were some updates to Google Search Console this week in the interface. So they've now provided regex filtering. I hate regular expressions. And finally, they have sorting by comparison. So the revamped comparison, which we've had for 3 years already?
Something like this. I always love it when we inspire other companies to do great reports.
Yeah, I mean, took them a while to catch up, but well done, Google.
Well done, Google.
Yes.
No, I love these kind of things that it always helps, getting people to use GC data more, which actually helps us a lot because you still have so many people who rely on third-party data, on scrape data, and not using GC data. And all these improvements really make it basically help the whole industry because it makes it more accessible to actually work with GC data. Awesome stuff.
Yes. Also, one news story I wanted to bring up was this whole Wix campaign that I thought was an absolute shit show. I don't know if I can swear, but whatever. So what they did was they sent Bose headphones to a lot of influencers in the community, some really expensive headphones. Maddie here, I know Saganthan got a pair and then told people to watch a video via a link. And these were videos that were explicitly calling out WordPress, WordPress, which is like an open source community built content management system, and Wix being this like really commercial company. Now Wix have a weird history. So they've been well known for being terrible with SEO, and in the past 2 years started really cleaning up their act, which, you know, we appreciated. We started listening and like, okay, maybe we can work with your URLs. Maybe we can work with your system. And now they do these videos comparing WordPress to like an absent father in like a therapy session. It's so awful. I really liked this article that Matt Mullenweg wrote about Wix, and really like called out like, why would you do this? WordPress is this global movement of hundreds of thousands of volunteers and community members who are trying to make the web a better place. And everything you put into it belongs to you. It's open source license. Ensure that you're in complete control. WordPress is free and it gives you freedom. And Wix is this commercial platform that also has a really bad system of, you know, making people pay more and more as their licenses continue. They don't let people.
For-profit company as a.
Exactly.
So they make money, right?
What do you think about this whole campaign?
So first of all, I love that you actually clicked through to that article via SparkToro. You see that? You have the. No,
that was from the last time. I forgot to remove the.
Oh,
yeah, I'm
like,
sorry.
How did I do?
I pasted it on the end of the URL. Yeah, it's not from SparkToro.
I actually heard of the controversy because, again, like it's like, oh, something going on Twitter, and I was like, oh my god, I don't even want to hear about it. And actually, when you brought it up, hey, we got to talk about this today in the news, I was like, okay, I got to watch the videos, because I was really like staying away from watching these videos. So like 20 minutes ago, I really like watched these 4 or 5 videos they had been releasing, and I can totally second what you've been saying. First of all, I like the quality of the video. I like sort of like how they are done. I think they are really well made. But the message is sort of kind of questionable. I mean, like I totally get the sentiment of like, oh, you know, all the updates and plugins needs to be updated and security updates. And this is like, okay, and with Wix, you have a more hassle-free kind of experience. You really just have to focus on your content and everything is whatever. So I think it definitely has a point, but they're definitely barking up the wrong tree, if this is the correct expression, right? Because they're really, why, you know, like WordPress, right? I mean, like 30% of the web is WordPress. And WordPress is not just a, you know, like simple, I mean, like it can serve as a simple blogging solution, right? But with WordPress, you have unlimited opportunities to expand it, to make it better, do your own stuff and stuff like this. And Wix is a much more closed system. And obviously, I mean, like you have much less to worry about, like obviously with third-party apps and stuff like this, if you're within a closed ecosystem, yeah, obviously. But I would rather use WordPress because it really gives me the possibility to do whatever the hell I want, and expand it, my thing however I want, right? So, and this is, I mean, they could go up against Squarespace, right? Which, by the way, as you can read in the article, has like just taken over
True.
in the market share, right? They could have targeted Squarespace, but why WordPress, right? And especially because they make it very hard for Wix users to eventually go to WordPress if, you know, their site grows up and they want to, you know, be more flexible with stuff. You can't export it, right? So you can't export your data. You know, if you signed up and like for 3 years have been blogging on Wix, right? You are, you know, you are in the system and you can't get out. You won't get your content out of there, right? So I don't know if this is really the
I'm
right
baffled by it. Yeah.
It's again, and Wix, as you've said, historically has always been the worst as solution in regards to SEO. But I really liked how, especially in the past couple of months, they really, you know, picked up speed and really like engaged with the SEO community, especially Morty Oberstein, you know, is like really engaged. And I really like that they have like this expert panel with lots of our friends on there, like Michelle Robbins, which I think has really been a great move, right? So they're doing a lot of things right, and now it's like, you know, like shooting against a huge part of a community, and especially like also the hardcore SEOs who will always favor a solution like WordPress due to the fact it's just much more flexible, right? And so
versatile, yeah.
I don't know. I think it's not the WordPress users you're trying to get there. It's more like Squarespace or other Jimdo, whatever things. So
yeah, or like tell me your USPs. Like don't crap on another system in the process. And also this type of marketing is understandably not legal in the EU. You cannot name another company by name, right?
Really?
Yes.
I can't. Oh, really?
You can't do this kind of marketing.
Okay, when I'm dissing Deep Crawl and Botify, I'm not allowed to do that. Really?
No.
Oh, damn. Nice.
No, as far as I learned, you can compare yourself with other companies, but it needs to be like 2, and then I think it's allowed if it's based on facts. So if you can say this is exactly the difference between us, I think then it's, as far as I understand, but maybe this changed over time, then it's allowed, but you cannot say I'm better than
that's right.
company. So you have to dedicate decide why, I think.
So Raphael has a totally different opinion here. I think they did a great job. We're talking about Wix, and it was clearly the main goal of the campaign. They should have told more about their USPs, though. You're totally right.
We are talking about them.
Yeah, we're talking about it, but I'm still not going to go to Wix, right?
I don't want to use them.
I'm also appalled by a lot of, you know, like WordPress updating issues and stuff like this, right? But I would rather do this kind of stuff than actually go into Wix and you know, like invest time in that blog, and I will never get that content out of there again. I'm sorry, you know, I'm not in for that closed system kind of stuff. Open source for the win. So let's stop talking about Wix. Vergleichende Werbung, not allowed. So yeah, I will never say something bad again about our competitors.
So
maybe today I will, you know, with the core of advice, I will definitely, you know, do the snarky comment. So
calm down. Yeah. Anyway, so Google released a new update with the product reviews algorithm update. So what they're basically doing here is trying to encourage more quality content within product reviews and not just having like really basic generic descriptions. You mentioned to me today, you think it's targeting like affiliate websites. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'm definitely thinking they're just targeting like with low value product reviews, but I've not seen anything. I've not like heard of anybody stuff like this. I know Morty just shared something on Twitter that he saw a couple of pages like losing ranks and that kind of stuff. But still, so we just see this announcement, but we don't see any visible outcome. If you see any visible outcome, if you are maybe affected by this or one of your competitors affected by this, please post it in the comment. We would really like to check it out.
Yes.
But so far, I've not seen anything. And I think it's a little bit weird because they really made it the product reviews update, so really like coining an update for this specific thing. This is very
it must have been necessary.
Yeah.
And they give us actually a really nice list of points to sort of check off with your reviews. So let me read it. Do your reviews express expert knowledge about products where appropriate? Do they show what the product is like physically or how it is used? With unique content. Like, I won't go through the whole list, but it's basically like some really good directions and pointers into creating better product descriptions and reviews.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, and then final piece of news. The CLS metric has been evolved. So this is a way of making the CLS, or cumulative layout shift for everyone, metric more fair to pages that are open for a long time. They've done a lot of research. They've been tracking user events in Chrome DevTools, and they've now created a maximum session window with a 1 second gap, capped at 5 seconds. So these are like those session windows that they mentioned. There is a 1 second gap between them. So in this example above, there's many layout shifts that are occurring over time as the user visits the page, views the page. Each is represented by that blue bar that you see there, and the different height equates to the higher the score. And the session window starts with the first layout shift and continues to expand until there is a gap with no layout shifts. When the next layout shift occurs, a new session window starts. And in this example, because there are 3 gaps with no layout shifts, there are 3 session windows in the example. So similar to the current definition of CLS, those scores will add up. So the total aggregate score is the sum of each individual layout shifts. And also in this new way of measuring it, it will not worsen your existing scores because it is basically taken over this larger time as well. That's it.
Yeah, in a nutshell, a lot of people will see their CLS ratings improve.
Yeah.
But probably none will have worse metrics probably. And I think it's a good move because you have so many pages, which when you're interacting with it, reloading always result in CLS. I think it's really a good move. Yeah, so that's the news. I want to spread in one more news, and actually a shout out to the new website boosting magazine. I'm always very proud that we in Germany are actually at least as far as I know, the only country which has a print magazine, Dead Trees, dedicated to SEO and website building. Website boosting from Professor Dr. Mario Fischer. It's always a great read. Lots of great articles in here. This week, actually, I want to point out one article which is really cool from here, Stefan Züch. From because he must have been Google. He makes a case for what's good in the Google Search Console and in Bing Webmaster Tools.
Okay.
Like the perfect webmaster tool set using both of these products. And this is exactly what you get out of website boosting. And also even lots of if you want to do some data analysis in R, you even have code examples and stuff like this. So it's a really nerdy magazine. If you haven't read it yet, if you don't know it, definitely pick it up. And we will have Professor Dr. Mario Fischer as a guest in our Clubhouse session on Tuesday. So just want to promote it. If you're speaking German, that would be great. Next Tuesday at 12 at noon, we will have Professor Dr. Mario Fischer in the Clubhouse here in our StreamYard. So if you want to watch, we would really like it. Yeah, I'm better in German.
Great. And now for our special guest appearance, more nice photos. Okay, that's a good one.
Second time. Okay. But I really appreciate that it's one of the better pictures that you and Armin choose for this.
You can even see the chicken moving.
Yeah,
this was a normal attire.
Yeah, everyday wear.
I thought that that's the better way if I want to talk to women on the Oktoberfest, to wear this kind of hat.
Yeah.
Were you successful with that?
Okay, and now we're coming to our talk today, which is about creating a high-performing website, our landing page.
Yeah, so just to give a quick intro to this. So, obviously, for us at Ryte, we do SEO ourselves, right? We eat our own dog food. We really we don't just talk the talk. We walk the walk. Which I always thought is a little bit weird because we have a lot of our competitors in our space who actually don't do any SEO, which I always find quite surprising, right? That you actually go to people, tell them, to use your SEO tool, to double down on SEO, and then they don't do SEO themselves. I don't really get it. And what also fascinated me, especially with Core Web Vitals, we saw that basically all SEO tools have really poor Core Web Vitals scores, right? So you have tools that are actually calling potential customers and telling them how important it is to really get their Core Web Vitals straightened up. So leading up to a possible update in the future, and they don't do it themselves, right? So many people seem to not eat their own dog food, right? Seem to not drink their own Kool-Aid, and so we're definitely doing this. So for us, it was really important to really let's go for 100, right? So let's use our software. As you know, we have extended our software in the past couple of weeks enormously, especially with our new Core Web Vitals report and everything else. By the way, nice background. And really use this to make our website give our website the 100% score. And so Danny was leading the project, and today we want to give you a lot of insight into how we actually managed to do this. We're actually very proud that we, at least for a big chunk of the pages, there's still a lot of work to do, but for a big chunk of the pages, we were successful in achieving the 100% score. So, and also, which is quite a tricky one, is the cookie consent banner, sort of like looking for a best practice on how to display the cookie consent banner, which is a problem basically every European company has at the moment, and Google has been kind of quiet on that side of really saying like this is a best practice. There's also been like, oh, that's not a good solution. Oh, cloaking is not a good solution. They actually came out with some best practices actually just last week, asynchronous loading and that kind of stuff. But we thought of a little bit, I think, more innovative way, and we want to also show you this. So without any further ado, I want to give the word to Danny. Tell us what you did, you little SEO magician.
Yeah. So,
welcome, Danny.
Introduction to the topic. So, as Max already mentioned, the idea was that we want to find a way to step-by-step rebuild our whole public landing page system, which we have, which overall at Ryte is like split into 3 different parts. We have our, like, I would say, product landing pages, which is like the homepage, pricing, product information, then pages for specific target groups. Then we have another area, which is our Ryte Wiki, so our media wiki-based system for wiki articles, and we have a blog system, which is WordPress, for the Ryte magazine, where we have like articles. So currently we are in the step that we migrated some pages and still migrating, so it's a still ongoing process of our custom landing pages we're talking about, so homepage, product pages, etc. And so first, to give you an idea what the challenge was that we started with. So our old system was a complete customized solution based on PHP back in 2012, and since 2012 it got multiple iterations, but it got never really rebuilt from the scratch. So it has this typical issues you have with website or software stacks, like some parts are outdated, some parts you know how to do better, but you need to make some complete new groundwork to get it done. There was no good deployment pipeline yet for easy rollback of releases or deployment of releases. Content changes need effort from developers. So whenever our marketing team want to release new pages, they need to have support from developers to release it. Then there was no strict content schema. So in the end, the pages had custom HTML, which is then difficult to keep it fully responsible, etc. There was no dedicated design system in place. So it was a custom-built CSS framework. It was easy for us to get out of sync with our test system. The redundancy and failover solution was not really good automated at this time, and it had a single hosting location in Germany. So that means, especially when we grow with Ryte over the last years, we have a lot of international customers or website visitors or leads. So it's not performing so good in some other areas of the world besides Central Europe. So this was what we want to work on. And so infrastructure-wise, to be a little bit more technical here, what happened is if a user opened the website, so our infrastructure overall is, so our product infrastructure is fully running on AWS. Also, our website traffic is terminating on AWS, on Amazon. But behind, we still had these legacy infrastructure, which are based on dedicated servers. So as you know, dedicated hardware servers, which also can get technical issues, or as I heard last time, sometimes also it burns in some data centers and then you're offline. So I heard this happen sometimes. So also something we want to improve. So this was the status of our old landing page system. So what we want to achieve with the new system and what our boundaries are. So we want that our development can mainly focusing on front-end UX and design, but it's not needed anymore for releasing new content, changing content, making A/B testing, etc. another important point is that our website is running independent from our product code for multiple reasons, for scaling reasons, for security reasons, etc. The new system should support fully responsiveness in all dimensions. Then we need multi-language support because we already have a multi-language website. Then we want a management of our content schema. So we don't want anymore that texters or marketing people need to create HTML code to get something in the right shape. So we want to have a content schema and then render it properly, also to support responsiveness fully. Then, of course, it should be at least a little bit SEO optimized. I know SEO optimized is one word, right? But it's a little bit. So that means we want to have full control over the front end. That means we want to be able to change everything we need regarding the output JavaScript and HTML to make sure we can improve it as best as possible, also to be a leading example here. Then we put in the target of Lighthouse scores 90+, because we thought everything else would be a shame for us when we start. And then we have a website which looks nice, but then it's like, I don't know, client-side render that has a score of 30 somewhere. Then we need different kind of content creation workflows. So sometimes content need to be reviewed before it goes live. Maybe some people should be allowed to directly change and publish content, or we need 2 people reviewing it. So we need to have a system which support this. Then we want to have easy reusable content pieces. That means, for example, I don't know, the feature list of our search success product, we don't want to create this like 20 times. We want one list of our features, and then we can just reuse this in different places. So in case we have a new feature, we edit once and all pages are updated. We want front end and back end, so means client and server side would be the correct term, A/B testing. Then we want highly, Marcus, yeah, that's true. Don't look so.
Niels. Servus, Niels.
Then we want highly availability. So it should be highly available. So means it should be covering failover systems to make sure it's always available. And we need a system to publish some kind of plugins that we need, like, I don't know, Facebook Pixel Analytics, Mixpanel, other marketing plugins without impacting performance heavily or too much. The boundaries for this, we got a new team. Team sounds a little bit big. So in the end, it was a headcount of 2 people. So it was like me half-time working on this project, 1 full-time front-end developer, and another half-time developer. So it was a headcount of 2. And our existing development teams should be able to advise us and give us some support, especially in the beginning when we make all the basic decisions about frameworks, technologies, etc. But they should not be involved in the implementation phase, because our product development teams are heavily heavily under pressure with a lot of like feature development for our product. So we want to build this really with a small independent team. Also to make sure our product owners didn't cry when we need resources from them. Then as always, when you make this kind of project, the budget is limited, because we are a company and not a government, and we want to make a step-by-step migration. That means the idea was we don't want rebuild everything and then release at once, but we want to release in best case URL by URL if we want. The reason is with this approach, first, it's more secure, because if you release everything at once and then you find out Google cannot crawl it for whatever reason, then it's a little bit it's not good for an SEO tool. And the second reason is then we are also able with our own software to measure the impact. So if we release dedicated URLs at specific points in time, we can also see later how this performs. We can make some A/B testing on our own page to see how it performs, which we cannot really control and do with our when we release everything at once. And from the technical point of view, it's also much more relaxed because we get faster our first feedback. So if we would work on this project for half a year or 1 year and then we release it, and then we found out the CMS system is not easy for our marketing people to use, then we already invested 1 year. But when we make a small release which contains the full stack as soon as possible, we have a faster feedback cycle to know, okay, performance is working, CMS is working, infrastructure is working, all this kind of stuff. So that's why the idea was, how can we release a small amount of URL completely on the new system without touching the legacy system to prevent any bigger risks. Yeah. So then next, I need to switch up here. This is, so now it's get very technical. I will make it
I'm so glad that you are like a good coder and not like a professional presentation giver. Presentation builder.
Who knows? We will find out later. So I will make it a little bit faster here. If there's dedicated question, then just like let us know in the chat or somewhere. Then I can talk more in detail. So what we did with the new approach was we had a thanks. We routed all of our traffic now to AWS CloudFront, which is a CDN. So that means it's like a caching layer, which is on a lot of location of the AWS cloud around the world. So that means you have a very good performing when you deliver content to your customers, if it's images or HTML or JavaScript files. So instead of that a user from US need to get the data from your server in Frankfurt in Germany, you get the data from the next possible location in US, which is like heavily impacting your performance. A lot of people using this only for assets, so for images and maybe JavaScript, but our idea was to use it for everything. So there's no reason for a more or less static website like our landing pages to not deliver everything via CDN. That's what we did. AWS, by the way, has 140 locations, so you have nearly, in every country, multiple locations. Besides Vietnam, Vietnam has no...
I just wanted to say, interesting fact. So without Vietnam, so Danny and the team were sitting in Vietnam doing these kinds of optimizations. And obviously, when they were running the test, they would also always end up at like 95, 96. And they would actually send us the URLs for us to check because... well, just the latency, just going to the next server out of Vietnam, was causing this worse score. So we actually had to send them over. So we were testing those and giving the feedback.
And I always had a bunch of people, like 4 people, and I always iterated around them to ask for testing it, to not disturb the same person too much all the time. And this is my mother-in-law who greeting.
Can you Vietnamese so good? Me Chon Quan?
I don't know yet. I need to check later. My Vietnamese is not so good yet. But let's talk about another topic which is more funny. And this is the setup here. So we use CloudFront for all of our requests to have the best possible performance. And then, as you can see here, our the one specialty we implemented is that our CDN is at the same time our reverse proxy to choose which backend is now delivering this page. That means our CDN knows these URLs on the new system and everything else is still on the old system. And based on this condition, it goes to the legacy server, or it stays into AWS, go to our main web server stack, which is in Frankfurt, Germany, and get the website from the new stack. So we're using our CDN here for these two purposes, to have a high performance and our reverse proxy without the need of an additional reverse proxy. So a lot of people will have an additional proxy behind the CDN, but we put it into the CDN. This is possible on Amazon with something which is named Lambda at Edge. So that means you can, on your CDN, on a specific request, you can execute code. And this code is now deciding it goes to A or B. So to legacy server or our AWS LB, and then in AWS Frankfurt we have our infrastructure stack, which is a Docker container setup, which is also make sure it's highly available. It's automatically recovering if we have some outage, etc. Has a load balancer failover system. We have our complete code pipeline in AWS, and we automatically store our content backups. And for our CMS, we're using Storyblock. I will explain later why we're choosing this. So our CMS system is completely as a service. So we don't host our own CMS anymore because, as you can imagine, with a small development team here, we want to focus to develop the parts which brings us the most value. And this is, of course, the front-end functionality, and not storing content and creating texter UIs and editor stuff like this, and make security updates, as you know, from WordPress. We talked before about it. So that's why we choose a headless CMS. That means this is a content management system, but if you compare it, for example, with WordPress, there's no front end. So it only provides you an API that you can use your own front end to access the content. So you have the complete backend UI, so someone can log in into Storyblok and create content. So if you compare it with WordPress, everything which is in WP admin, this is what you get, but you don't get the template part that WordPress has in the front end. You just get an API.
Which is actually kind of trendy right now. You have a couple of companies, and I think you were choosing between different systems. I mean, there's a very popular system also coming out of Berlin, which is Contentful. So this headless CMS is actually a real trend. But Danny, I saw these videos. Why don't we use Wix?
First, because of the name. Second,
yeah, in Germany it has this bad connotation.
Yeah, that's a good question. Tell me more about it later. So using Storyblok here, and with Storyblok we get then the stuff also backup in our S3. That means what Marcus also mentioned with Wix before. With the Storyblok, we have a control over our content. So in the end, we have access to our content, which are JSON files on S3. So in case we want to migrate later to another system, it's possible. So we are not blocked here from extract content from our CMS system. Okay, let me go to next. Yeah, so as I mentioned already before, I explained this already. So we can now migrate URL by URL, and we don't need to migrate the complete system at once with this system. So this is now about the front end framework we are using. So after some research, we chose Next.js. This is a React-based server-side rendering framework, which is quite popular, I would say, the last 2 years, maybe. So what does it mean? Some of you might know React. React is the front-end JavaScript framework, which is like coming from Facebook. And it so they are, at the moment, there are, you can say, are three big state-of-the-art JavaScript frameworks that are widely used. This is React from Facebook. This is Angular with the backbone from Google. And there is Vue.js, which is getting more and more famous. In the end, it's for a basic website, I would say you can choose all of them. The benefit of React compared to Angular is that the trend is going more into React. So this battle, Angular versus React, is going more and more into the direction of React over the past months and years. And another benefit for us, or why we choose to React, is our product UI is also based on React. That means even if our product developers should not involved into the implementation, in case we need some help from some people who have very deep knowledge in React, we have them in-house. So we have a bunch of very talented React developers in-house, and that's why it's better if you choose the same framework for the public page than a new one. And that was one of the main reasons why we choose a React-based framework. And if you choose a React-based framework, I would say Next.js is for this landing page stuff. At the moment, the way to go. Maybe not for applications like our software, but for a landing page. The reason it simplifies a lot of stuff. So it automatically made your page URL creation and routing. And one of the big benefits is server-side rendering, which is very heavy needed if you want to have a good SEO performance, and all these features of a modern JavaScript framework. I will come to this in a minute. So here, so what is server-side rendering? When you request a website, server-side rendering means that the server is already rendering it, as the name suggests, and that means instead of sending the pure JavaScript code to the browser, it already creates an HTML output. This HTML output and the JavaScript code get transferred to the browser. Then the browser can very quick render the HTML code and show you the content. So it's very fast loading. And then the browser will execute again all the JavaScript stuff. So similar to what happened on the server side, it happens again on the client side, and then it gets synchronized. So means the browser, like Chrome, is getting the HTML, can show it very quick, similar to a static website, maybe a little bit slower, but very similar to a static website. It shows you the visualization based on the HTML. Then it gets all the JavaScript stuff. Then it renders the JavaScript stuff again. Then it sees, okay, the stuff I got in JavaScript is similar to what I already show, and then he synchronized again. And from this point on, my client side, so my browser, can still have a lot of JavaScript functionalities. So I have the benefit of a client side framework like pure React and the performance of a pure static website combined. The trade-off is I need to transfer a little bit more data because I transfer the rendered website, so the HTML, and I transfer the raw JavaScript code. This is the trade-off. I have a little bit more data I need to transfer, and this is something we also optimize then. But the benefit is I have a high performance. Any search engine can crawl my website. So not only Google, even non-JavaScript rendering crawler can crawl my website, because what the server is sending is already HTML that contains content, etc. I still have all these kind of client-based features. I can make really advanced functionality in the browser. So that's the big benefit if I have a server-side rendered website here compared to a static website or client-side website. Here's one example. This is I put in the source, the very good Medium article, which compared server-side rendering versus client-side rendering. So as you can see, you have a much faster time to interaction. So it means the user or also the search engine bot can much faster access content or use the website than with a pure client-side rendering solution, which needs to execute the JavaScript stuff first. The big advantage of Next.js now is, I know it's getting maybe a little bit complicated, but Next.js can use in total 4, but there are 3 important parts. So Next.js, you can configure to be a server-side rendered application, to be a client-side rendered application, or to be a static application based on your needs and based on your URL. So you can, for example, you can say, okay, my, I don't know, terms of service, imprint, disclaimer, this is just pure static content. So I create a static output. But for example, on my homepage where I have some call to action elements or input boxes I want to validate, this one is a server-side rendered application. Or I say this is just client-side because there's no need for server-side rendering. So Next.js is heavily flexible here to get the correct balance between complexity and performance for whatever need you have.
By the way, there are also tools that actually want to sell you a dynamic rendering solution, which sounds like a really cool concept, which it isn't, which is basically just, well, I don't want to fix my shit, so let me lock you into an expensive service you got to use till the rest of your life because you didn't fix your shit. So I think even Google advises against dynamic rendering. I really wonder why it's still such a topic. I think this is really the setup to go and not use like proxy solutions that are definitely not sustainable and could only be like a short-term solution. By the way, Niels Danke, you get some very cool claps here from Niels. Can you please show a slide that says you should always render the JavaScript on the server? That would simplify the advice in customer projects.
So I think we create a screenshot now and then we have a screenshot. So I think the way to go if you want to have a good performance and accessibility is if you have pure static code content, then you can go for a static website. But if you want to have dynamic, dynamic functionalities on your site, then go for server-side rendered solution because this gives you all the advantages you need. So what we did design system-wise, so we combined, which is the common way if you work with Next.js as a framework, we combine it with Tailwind Css, which is a CSS framework. That means that's a system to make sure you always have a proper design system. So what does it mean? Maybe some of you know, if you hack your own HTML, then you can put in something like style border 1px red dotted or whatever, so to make a dotted line around your table. But if you have if you have a proper system, there's something you don't want to do, right? You want to have a central source which is telling you, okay, this is the style of a headline, this is the style of a table, this is the style of my menu items. And for this you can use CSS frameworks, and one very common one is Tailwind Css, which is HTML first. That means if you get used to it, you just put in the classes and it automatically adopts it correctly. It's a little bit hard to explain, so if someone's interested, you should see the demo, but it makes styling very easy and consistent over your whole website. And this we combined with with one important architecture, which is BEM. I think this is introduced from Yandex some years ago, which is in the end a pattern how to make a CSS hierarchy. Because maybe some people of you know that maybe some SEOs sometimes they want to override CSS and then they put something in and make important behind it to make sure nobody can override it. And this kind of stuff you should be
all
careful
the time
if you want to have a sustainable system. So that's why there are some methodologies, and one widely used and common one nowadays is BEM for these kind of topics. So that's how we managed our CSS and design system to make sure the new website will be consistent everywhere. Now we come to the topic: how do we choose our headless API only CMS system? So what do we want to have is we want to have like a generic API that we can use with every system framework we want. So at the moment it was Next.js, but who knows what happened in the future. There are two common interfaces you get nowadays. It's REST APIs, or something a little bit modern is GraphQL, which is hard to explain. So for example, if you have a classic CMS system and you say, okay, I want to list all categories with all contents, what you need to do is you need to make one request to get all your categories. Then you iterate over each category, and then you ask which content I have in each category, for example, to create a sitemap. GraphQL is a different kind of API query language, which gives you the ability to do all this in one query. So you can create a query and you can say, thanks a lot. So you can create a query. Sorry, I cannot answer so long because our time is limited. So you create a query, and then you can get all your categories with all contents at once. So it gives you something like SQL for APIs. I think this is also introduced from Facebook some years ago, and that's something now a lot of CMS systems, modern CMS systems, providing. I'm not sure if WordPress or Wix providing this, but probably not yet.
So why are we not?
What?
No, just
okay. As I already mentioned, for some reasons we want to have this completely as a service to keep our effort low on managing this. And then what we did, and that's quite interesting, and this is something I would recommend everyone, is we created some scenarios for the future, what we think will be happen, and then we calculated costs for the system based on this. So, for example, we calculated how much we have to. We calculated first how much we have to pay for our for the CMS system today, and then we looked. Okay, let's imagine we have the double amount of team members working on the CMS. We have 10 times more content. We have 5 additional languages. We have more content schemas. How would this impact the costs? Because then you see very quick what is the price scaling for the system, and then you can decide if this is matching with your business behind it, right? So, for example, for us, it's better to scale on the amount of users, or maybe on the amount of content, than on the amount of schemas, because we want a very flexible schema system. And if this is getting very expensive, then we get into a problem. Especially nearly all of these systems have at one point an enterprise plan, which normally don't show you the price, and then then you know, okay, this can be at this point get very, very expensive. Then there was a point of reliability. So we were a little bit scared to use the latest Berlin 3-man startup, maybe, and then in 6 months we have a problem if they get an exit or an bad exit. Was one topic, and these kind of custom workflows was for us maybe a blocker, because sometimes only the enterprise plans provided, and then you already at a like 4 or 5 digit number of pay per month. So the systems we're looking at then, so we make some research, and we had like 20 CMS very quick. If you go to G2 or some of these sites, then we filtered out everything which was anyway no option for us. And then the one we looked deeper at was Storyblock, Contentful, Graph CMS, and Butter CMS. And I mean, me with my weight, I was in favor of Butter CMS, but
Butter CMS, I love it.
I mean, butter is the best. It makes everything taste better. So, yeah.
Okay. So
Enough about butter.
Here's one example. So this is now a screenshot from the Contentful pricing page, and here you can see what we found out then is with these scaling scenarios that nearly all CMS systems created us an issue with the amount of content types, because the most providers like Contentful or Graph CMS, they are heavily limited how much content types you can create, content types in the end schemas. And we want a very flexible solution here. This means that it would be get straight into the enterprise plan. And as you can see, we're already talking in the team system for about like $800-900. So that's enterprise plan, very, very heavy. And then we found out, okay, this is the main problem for us. So the amount of content we have is not a problem. The amount of users or roles is not a problem. The workflow is not a problem. The problem is which service is useful for a huge amount of different content schemas to give us the flexibility that we need. And that was the reason why we're using Storyblock, because Storyblock is more or less only scaling on the amount of users. So users means people editing content, not public users. So, and that's okay, because if our marketing team gets bigger, then we pay additional license fee for users, and then it's fine. That's something we can calculate, and which doesn't grow too fast.
Or do account sharing.
Yeah, but
I haven't said anything.
Yeah, but Max, that's not good, because we have, as I mentioned before, we have a review workflow. So that's you can do this for your private media donors website, maybe.
Thanks for dissecting my jokes.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next. So what was the content schema modeling? Our idea was to be highly, or as best as possible, structured here. That means we don't want that our texters anymore need to create handcrafted HTML. So they should have items like a headline, a call to action element, a feature list, a table, maybe a little bit more flexible rich text or markdown, but they should not start creating custom HTML, because then we could get into problem with responsiveness, performance, etc. Then it should be reusable, so that you have a schema you can reuse on all different layouts you have. Then I name it daily layouting without developers. That means our goal was that our marketing team, they can create, for example, a new landing page without need of developers. That means they can create their own layout based on existing components, and then they can release it without need to ask a developer if they use existing layout components. And server-side A/B testing was a topic we want to achieve. Here, this is one example. So this is
by the way, with custom HTML, can I not use the marquee HTML tag anymore?
Don't worry, we created 200 kilobyte React component for you, which simulates this then to make
the marquee. I love it. That's my favorite HTML tag.
Yeah,
you know that like you could actually with the marquee tag, you have like a text that I'm gonna run through. Yeah,
that's the best HTML tag, obviously.
Obviously.
My first frame set based website was using this, because I thought it's important to get attention from your visitors to specific points. Yeah, so here's an example. So this is how the Storyblock interface look like. One really nice advantage of Storyblock is that you have this live preview mode. So it means our marketing people can log in, they can open the content, then they see how it currently look like. Oh yeah, the blink tag from
Beginn schon wieder hier.
So you can open the content, you see how it currently look like on the live website, and then you can click to the different parts and edit it. So it's super hand-on to edit content. And the moment you change the content on the right panel, it directly shows you how it would look like if you publish now. So that make it very easy to design or redesign content pieces. And as you can see on the right, every kind of schema item, and this example is very simple, the title and the description, we can explicit define what the people are able to do. So for example, the title is only text. They cannot make any kind of bold or line breaks, and it's also limited in the size to make sure it will never break our layout. For the description, they can do two things more. They can also use bold, and they can link specific text. But for example, they cannot make any, I don't know, H3 headlines, because this is how we make sure that there's only one H1 headline, which is the title search success. So that's how you can really precise define how the content get rendered later with the maximum amount of flexibility. But on the other side, also you make sure it cannot break anything or make you any problems.
It's like Wix.
Yeah, it's exactly similar like Wix. Yes. So here's another example for our homepage. So here you can see it's more advanced. So we have the different call to action elements. We have the icons of our testimonials. So our marketing people would also able to rearrange this. They could add an additional headline, and that's everything directly visible in the live preview. And then on top they can say publish, and then it's live. If they want to edit another language, they just choose the different language on top, and they can immediately create a translation. Or they can say this field is not translated. Use the English default, whatever. So that's really simple and easy to use and very intuitive. So now we come to more technical optimizations. This is now a very quick jump from content stuff. Don't worry, Marcus, you don't need glasses. I will zoom in later. Oh yeah, please.
I still can't read it.
You look much more
because this is just Fensterglas.
Okay.
But I look more sophisticated now, right?
Yeah. Now you can start developing software. So as I mentioned before, we make a lot of optimizations on the software on the front end framework side, like with Next.js and our advanced CloudFront CDN setup. And two things I want to show which might be interesting. As you can see here, this is our HTTP response header in the Chrome debugger of the main document, so of the HTML document. And as you might see, it looks very big and there's a lot of content, and I will now explain what it does and why we choosing this option. So one big improvement we make, still very small, but cannot make it bigger, is we making preload via HTTP header link field. So what does it mean? You can, if you want to have a website performance optimized, so if you want to make sure it's loading and rendering very fast, one of the main points that you can optimize is make sure the browser get all files he needed very, very fast as possible. And usually, if you open a website, what happens is you open the website in the browser. It gets in the first step the HTML document, then it renders the HTML, and then it knows, okay, I need to query this JavaScript, I need to query this image, I need to query this CSS file. And there are some techniques how you can optimize this. And one is that you can use preload tags. Preload means you embed a link tag. For example, here's a style sheet, and then there's missing the preload tag I see, but it looks very similar. And then
nobody can read anything on this screenshot.
No, I mean the top line. There's missing something, sorry. But you can check for link preload tag. So what you do is like you tell the browser, okay, here's a list of files that you will need in the next seconds. So start already downloading it. So you can tell the browser to download files where you know he will need it anyway, because then in the meantime he can download it and execute the HTML code, and then when he needs the file, it's maybe already there, or at least it's faster there. Usually, there are two options to do this, similar to canonical text. You can do this in the HTML head, or you can do this in the HTTP header. And what we did is we migrated, or we created something to move it from the HTML head into the HTTP header to get it as fast as possible, because our HTML content is quite big and has a lot of JavaScript stuff. So the browser needs to execute a lot of stuff first before he see there are preload HTML tags. But if it's in the HTTP header, it's much faster. Another benefit is if you use a web server which is supporting, or a CDN which is supporting HTTP push functionality, then this server can use the HTTP header to push these files. Pushing means instead of the browser need to tell the server, I want this file, I want the CSS file, I want the image, I want the JavaScript, the server can just append it to the HTML document. So technically this means the server is sending the HTML document. At the same time, the server, so for example, Nginx is supporting this. Nginx is seeing, okay, this HTML response has a link header. I will add all the files before the browser is asking for it. This is something we cannot do because AWS has limitations here, but it would be work. So that was one of the optimization we did to get all the JavaScript assets, because it's a bunch on React that you need, get it faster into the browser than before. And as I already mentioned in the beginning, what we did is every request is going through our CDN, including the main document. I see it very often that websites sending the HTML document directly from the server. So they have, I don't know, some dedicated server. This is, for example, WordPress. And if you open the website, it's requesting the server responds to the HTML. And then if it comes to the images, they are going over the CDN to have a better performance. But for like quite static websites where you have the control over it, you can also send the HTML document over your CDN. So there's no reason to not send all of your requests via CDN. The benefit here is, as I mentioned at the beginning, if everywhere in the world, all requests get served from the next possible AWS location. So that means for a regular page on Ryte.com that we have migrated, like product page, homepage, the most URLs can directly coming from the CDN cache, which has a heavy impact on the performance compared to everything comes from Frankfurt. This is also connected, of course, to your like cache invalidation time and TTL, and maybe you have some restrictions regarding cookies, so that's not possible. But if it's possible, you can send everything via CDN cache. And that is one of the biggest improvements we could make, because we have around, I think, 30 HTTP requests, and that's has a heavy impact because you save a lot of latency on your page load. Now it comes to the topic that Marcus already mentioned, how we optimized our consent screen. So what was the problem? The problem was that we're using user-centrics for our consent management. And what we did from the beginning is to be a GDPR and a DSGVO compliant in Germany, is that we said our initial page load should completely work without any third-party request. That means if you can use Ryte.com without any request to another domain. There's no fonts coming from Google. There's no functionality coming from any other third party. So it completely works with requests on Ryte.com. And everything else, like plugins, Facebook tracking pixel, LinkedIn pixel, etc., are only loaded if the user gives us consent, also Google Tag Manager content. And the problem we faced then was that when we're using the user-centric plugin, which is very convenient, so we want to keep it from our old system, we found out that when we make the lighthouse test in Google Chrome, that our largest contentful paint is the consent screen, because it pops up and it's a very big block, and then our scores going down because our LCP is our consent screen.
And that's just not us. I mean, like, this is lots of people having that exact same problem, and really, asking for best practice, how to deal with this, because obviously this is not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and then after I was crying some hours, I called Marcus and I asked him what can we do here, or because I also searched for best practices, but there's no clear good advice that's working. Of course, you don't want to cloak anything for Google, so what can we do here? And then Marcus told me he had a nice Clubhouse call with Valentin, right?
Valentin Plätzer, Vorticon Commander on Twitter.
And they talked about only using the consent screen if there's any reason to use it. And any reason would be any kind of human interaction, as I read here. So what we did now is exactly this. So when the page load is done, which is only on Ryte.com requests, we loading the consent screen as soon as we get any hint of human interaction. That's a bunch of like trigger we set. This is just an example here on the right from our source code. So you can see we have like a list of activity events: mouse down, mouse move, key down, touch start, scroll. So everything that could be registered as a human interaction and a crawler or bot is normally not doing. And if any of these activities happen, then we immediately fire the consent plugin so that the user can accept or deny. The nice benefit of this is not a Google dedicated solution. It works for any kind of bots and crawlers to make sure you only show the consent screen when it's really, really necessary, when it comes to like cookie acceptance and personal data.
Yeah, actually, just a couple of weeks ago, we had this big referral spam attack again, and this was actually going throughout the whole internet. I saw this, a couple of people complaining about this. There was a huge referral spam campaign going on again, and these are these typical hits you will see in Google Analytics, which will all have 0% time on site. This is really just to get you typing in that domain, right? So, which still works, which is kind of fantastic, but it's really just a scaling issue, I guess, in this case. And you also exclude this automatically because these won't be counted in Google Analytics anymore because they actually don't have any interaction with the site. So I think this is a great way because the crawler obviously won't have any interaction, and only the real user, when you call up the website, will move his mouse or whatever. And then when this is actually the moment when the consent bar will appear. So we really make sure that every user will see the consent bar, right? But like most of the bots will not see the consent bar, and therefore also won't screw with our core web vital metrics.
Yeah, so that's what we did. Works really, really good. We have, besides this, with user-centric as content management, we are able to do a kind of implementation at the same time. So what we're doing is we have some plugins which are heavily performance related, which can directly get triggered when the user click the consent. So if the user clicks the user-centric contents, there's a JavaScript functionality which then loads, for example, our Mixpanel solution, which is our main analytics solution. And everything else we're doing over Google Tag Manager. And this is something you should be aware of. This was something quite tricky for us, but we got it done. To make sure that if the user give us consent for the Google Tag Manager, we don't load everything in the Google Tag Manager, but we have a connection between the specific Google Tag Manager tag and the specific user-centric consent. This is, if you know how to do it, it's quite easy. But you need to be aware of this, because what a lot of websites doing is they have a consent screen which has like Tag Manager consent button, Facebook consent button, LinkedIn consent button. And if the user is giving consent to Google Tag Manager is loading, and then Tag Manager is loading everything, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And that's not the correct way to do it. But normally you can do this quite easy over data layer variables, which are connecting then the consent consent trigger with the respective tag manager tag. And then you can make sure, okay, if the user gives you only tag manager and only Facebook, then only this stuff will be loaded. Yeah. And with this, we solved all our consent screen headage we had. Yeah. Then that's more like a headline. So to optimize our scores like FCP, LCP, TTI, I sound a little bit like political people in Germany who say machine to machine. Was our main approach was always in the time of developing all the basic setup, infrastructure, the Next.js stack, the first small amount of URLs. We always keep in mind, okay, how can we reduce our transferred data? However we can do it. Because when we reduce the transferred data, it will have two outcomes. One is we have a shorter latency, because when we download less data into the browser, it gets faster. And if you create less data, it normally also means you have less code which get executed. So that's why we focused all the time to reduce stuff in parallel of developing the system. So that means multiple times per week we discussed how can we optimize something more. So we did it in parallel with the feature or page development. And one big advantage we found was, now it's getting really technical, replacing the React framework in Next.js with Preact. So as I mentioned before, Next.js is a framework which is using React internally. And there is a alternative for React, which is named Preact, which is much more lightweight. So it means it's much less code to execute, but it for all the basic stuff, it gives you the same functionality. So it has some high-end modern React stuff maybe you don't have, but these features you normally don't need for a normal website. That's much more for application development. So that's why it was very easy for us to replace the React dependency in our system with Preact, and this was reducing our overall page or the amount of data we need to download on a page load, I think by around 20%. And there was no like development effort. It was just exchange the dependencies. So you just change the dependencies and everything worked like before. So it was a very easy solution to reduce our the amount of transferred data on a page load. Preact was also very getting a big amount of attention some years ago when Facebook had this license issue with React, if someone of you is old enough to remember. There was an issue some years ago that Facebook changed the license of React, and then a lot of lawyers were talking about better don't use React anymore, and all startups was like, but all my business is based on the React application. So, and then there was then Preact get famous because they have a classic, I think, MIT license. So it's very easy to use. So another thing we did was optimizing fonts, and there we optimized multiple things. So one is we don't use Google fonts. We're hosting this on our own domain. Because for multiple reasons. One is we want to use and only use the highest standard of font data format, which is WOF2, which is automatically compressed and best possible optimized for performance. Then it's very important to look at the font display CSS type you're using. As we can see above, there's like mainly block, swap, fallback, and optional, and this means how the browser is rendering your fonts. So for example, if you have a normal or if you don't use any font display, the browser will finish his rendering when he downloaded the font and everything is displayed with the correct font. But normally, I mean, if you have super high brand requirements, then maybe yes, but normally it's okay if, I don't know, for 1 second, you use a fallback font and then you swap to the correct font. So that's why the most people using swap here. That means you use the fallback font first, something every computer has, I don't know, Arial or Verdana or whatever. And when the font is downloaded, you swap it. With this approach with swap, you can make sure that the user can read the text as fast as possible, and he get the correct design as fast as possible.
And let me guess, this could actually also lead to CLS issues because the new font could be like a little bit different, the pixel size, whatever.
Yeah, and that was also the reason in our case, and that's why we moved in the most cases to optional. That means the browser is now using the correct font if he get it in the first 100 milliseconds. If he don't get it in the first 100 milliseconds, he's using the fallback. That means we have after 100 milliseconds, we have no layout shift regarding fonts on one side, and the only trade-off that we have is if the user don't get the font in the first 100 milliseconds, then he see the fallback font. But this is only on the first page load, because after the first page load, he will anyway download it, and then it's in the cache. So that means it can happen. But even if it can happen, it can only happen when the user enter the first time our system. So that was for us the best balance regarding having the correct design, but also having to make sure after 100 milliseconds we know which font to use.
By the way, can we make the fallback font Comic Sans?
Please.
Yeah, or more, or to look more serious, we use monospace.
And papyrus for the titles.
Ooh, how fancy, papyrus.
So that's something you can do. And then something we made more for fun than I think it's really useful, but we want to try it out. One of our front-end developers optimized our font files. So we have now in our build process, so the process which is using all our code and creating the new version for release, we optimize our fonts and we're removing all unnecessary characters. For example, we don't have some languages. Then we can remove some characters or some weird special characters, and this reduced our font files by, I don't know, 30% or something. So it was not a lot, but still something we could find out.
Every kilobyte counts.
Every kilobyte counts. And our idea was, if we want to do it, we do it now at the beginning, because that's normally something you have never time later on to touch. So that's how we optimize our fonts. And overall, all this font optimization had a significant impact. I think this was around, I would say, performance score in Lighthouse. We optimized between, I would say, 5 and 8 points, only with font topics.
Wow.
From the first, in the beginning, it was simple Next.js default, which is Google font. And Google font anyway is a GDPR issue, right? So with Google font, without consent, it's a problem anyway. And that's why we also want to host it anywhere on our own domain. Because as I mentioned before, all requests need to go to Ryte.com and the page need to work. And then now it gets super technical. I will not go deep into this.
Now
you said that 5 times.
This is like the
really
easy
technical
part now, which is understandable for even like senior citizens and kids under the age of 7.
Yeah.
But now it's getting technical.
Yeah.
All right, people.
Because I need to be careful here, because my background is more, my background is more back-end development. I'm not a front-end developer, and this is so heavy front-end shit that I'm not so convinced that I can explain it 100% correct. But what we found out when we looked at our performance score, how can we optimize it more close to 100 after all the other stuff we made before? There's some really good articles I linked here about optimizing how Chrome is rendering your website. This also counts normally for other browsers very similar, like Firefox or Safari. And especially the first article is really good, because what the main problem is normally you have with high JavaScript websites like React application is that the initial DOM stuff is running in a single main thread. And it's getting interesting. And normally something that you can see, even this is super heavy stuff, but this is something you can see in the Lighthouse report very often, is that Lighthouse is telling you, your main thread is under heavy load. So maybe you have seen this in Lighthouse. In Lighthouse, in the performance tab, you see main thread is under heavy load. And the question is, how can I get stuff out of my main thread? So how can I get code that Chrome needs to be executed into a separate thread to get my main thread faster performing? And
this is actually something Martin Split is always saying, get rid of stuff in the main thread, because this is really where, like, first input delay, really, this is really focused on on the main thread. So you really want to keep it clean.
And now it's getting, and now I will not go too deep in just because I'm not so safe on this topic. It's what you can, so if you look at these articles, it explains also how a browser is really rendering a website, because rendering a website is a multi-step funnel, which first create like different kind of layers. And the main problem often you have is that there is one layer. So you can imagine, like, if you remember Photoshop, if you have Photoshop and you have you create an image in Photoshop, you have multiple layers, right? On one layer you create this item, then you put a new layer on top where you create a different item. And this is similar how a browser like Chrome is rendering your website. And if you not optimize this, it can easily happen that everything is on one layer. And that means if you touch something, the browser needs to recalculate the whole layer. That means he recalculate a lot of stuff which didn't change. And there are some like CSS tricks how you get specific elements of your page into an independent layer, means out of the main thread. So for example, you can use CSS. They have these transform or will change attribute that I would say 95% of front-end developers don't know about. Is where you can say, okay, specific elements, so you do it by classes, and then you attach this CSS class to specific elements, for example, footer navigation, header navigation, menu items, or specific elements. You can give them this specific class with the will change or transform attribute, and then Chrome knows that he should put this on an independent layer. And that means you get it out of the load of the main thread. What we did in the end, to be honest, is we tried this out. So we used this CSS class, and then we attached the CSS class to different elements, which have a high amount of rendering stuff. And then we looked, okay, what's performing better? And then we just benchmarked, and we did this multiple times, and then we found a good balance here. Because some people think now, okay, I just attached this to every HTML attribute, but that's not a good idea, because it also creates you some overhead of memory and CPU load. So you should not make like star and then attach everything will transform. But there are much better people in this blog post who explain this into detail. Yeah, so that's what we also did to improve this a little bit. Another thing was that we want to have a very good security setup. So I mean, CloudFront already provide the basic stuff we need, but we want to get an A+ rating on SSL Labs. SSL Labs is, yeah, you can say something like Ryte for your SSL auditing. So very deep, analyze how good is your transport encryption configured. And we already had, so the basic CloudFront setup has like a B rating. Then you change some configurations on the CDN, and then you get an A rating. And for A+, you need to add some security HTTP header. Here you can see how it looked like in the CloudFront CDN Lambda function. How can you like manipulate or add stuff to request responses? So what we did is we activated HSTS, so strict transport security. This is so if you have this header with a max age, what you do is you tell the browser that if he come back next time, he's only allowed to use HTTPS. So the idea behind is if someone hijacks or if someone makes a man-in-the-middle attack to your users, and he wants to get the user to the HTTP version of Ryte.com, because he can obviously not touch the SSL certificate, this will not work anymore, because the browser knows, okay, in the next 180 days, I'm only allowed to use HTTPS connection for this domain. So you force the browser to use HTTPS from now on, and the browser is caching this. Another thing is that we limited the amount of frame options. So that means our website cannot be included into third-party websites via iframe. That's, for example, protects you from cookie dropping if you are in this like affiliate marketing area. Then there is some XSS protection flags, which forces the browser to make some automatically server-side XSS protection or activate this. And we have a referrer policy. That means our referrer, so if a user is surfing on our website and goes from our website to a third-party website, we don't send the referrer to the new website. which also some security issues. And with this setup, we already get an A+ rating on SSL Labs, as you can see here. So then you are fine. It was not a big deal, but then it's also done. We also, as you can see here, this was the SSL Labs rating, but what I want to show here is we also make everything IPv6 ready from the beginning. I'm not sure if there's any kind of ranking factor, but we just said, okay, if we do it properly, so we make sure our whole website would work if the user is only supporting IPv6. Yeah, that's the last slide. So, that was the set. So that's an overview. Some more details we did, but I think this is the less technical, most interesting part so far.
Yeah, mind blown. Actually, Armin is saying, could I have this lecture in handgeschöpftem Büttenpapier und Schweinsledern gebunden?
What is that?
I don't know. I mean, like, you seem to be able to do anything, so you might be also able to pull that off. Yeah.
Denny is our Splitty. Because, I mean, you're explaining these really technical concepts, but in a very understandable way. So I really appreciate that. And I know that our audience learned a lot. I learned a lot. And I'm very happy that I get to work with you. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. I hope people understand, because the problem in my first years was always that I make talks and then the people don't understand what I say. And I hope it's getting better over time.
I need the weekend for this to soak in, and then like maybe to rewatch it another few times. But it's getting there. It's
yeah. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just gonna nod along and smile.
And
it's okay, Marcus. Go back to your WordPress system and be
happy. Hey, I'm using Wix now. I'm using Wix. Yeah. And we could have skipped all of that shit because I saw some videos, right? We could have just used Wix, you know. So
who needs PHP anyway? Come on. But Danny, thank you. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was really astonishing. I mean, like, if you've been watching from the beginning, we're now over 90 minutes. So holy shit. But I mean, like, just the wealth of knowledge in here. This is now I need a big beer. So Prost also with your Malzbier.
It's good. It's isotonic, so it's good.
Yeah, you're probably sweating kind of bit with this talk. Yeah, this is just really like phenomenal. I think a lot of people could take away a couple of tidbits for their own site. And there's like a lot of like general advice in here, especially dealing with, for example, custom fonts that you're loading from Google Fonts or something like this. This is always something we advise against, you know, using something like this. But the process you've shown, I think, is really a real best case scenario, how you can deal with this kind of stuff. And as just as well as with the consent banner, not just making it easy like to load fast, but also making sure that only the stuff is loaded that you actually gave consent for, because what you have been saying is actually something which is, I think, quite common, and you really don't want a lawyer to catch that kind of stuff. So a lot of people are still doing this wrong, although they might think they do it correctly. So I think there was also a lot of great insights in there. Yeah, Armin is logging off. He now has a big beer. So happy drinking to you, Armin. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, also phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining the show. And also,
I'm happy to join the best SEO show in the week, right? So
it is.
Yeah. The best show on Fridays at 4 p.m. live on Facebook. That's us. That's us. Yeah, and also phenomenal work. Thank you so much for doing this. I mean, like, obviously we still have lots of work to do. We have lots of parts of our websites which still need to be reworked as well, but we're really on it. We really want to get our whole website to 100 score. And yeah, we really just want to also like lead the charge, and also like, you know, because we have so many people who are always like, oh, Core Web Vitals, do we really need to do this? Does it really make sense to go to 100? And now we really want to see, you know, what's really the impact here? How did this actually help us in regards to SEO, in regards to getting extra sessions of users that would have dropped off?
Happier users.
The page would have been loaded and stuff like this. So we And also, how does it look like in Google Webmaster Central and Google Webmaster Central? I'm like going back in time here, in Google Search Console and that kind of stuff. So we will supply you guys with more and more case studies throughout the next couple of weeks. And I definitely want to see a blog post of what you just presented, and also have that in writing, because I mean, again, there's so much, such a great wealth of knowledge in here. So yeah. Danny should write a book. You can not just write a whole blog post, write a whole book.
Yes.
Please, in your free time, right? I mean, like, still in your work time, you should still work on that stuff. But obviously, would be
if you work for Ryte, there is no free time, right? You are with your full heart, 24 hours working on.
Come on, it's fun 24/7, right? That's what it's about. Yeah, also, this has been simply phenomenal. Also, thank you so much, Danny. Thank you for coming on.
So much.
Also, big thanks to our developers, Toby and Timo, who make the main part. I was more for like supporting and make the infrastructure, but Toby and Timo really get the best out of the React front end that you can build. And even
amazing work.
I know in the time when before the release of the first URLs, I always make a call with them. Then I'm like, but you know, guys, we need to get 100. So it's not like, oh, let's get, if Danny say let's get 100, it means 85. No, I told them performance minimum 95, because that's depending on the infrastructure, but the rest 100. And I think in one point they're also a little bit tired that I always how important this is. But yeah, this was the goal, to show, okay, it's also to show it's possible. So it's a lot of effort and a lot of details, but it is possible to do it. And it's not only possible with a simple static website, it is possible with a full dynamic web application. And I think this is a complete different level then compared to a static site.
And it's definitely possible if you're using Ryte and really like analyze thoroughly, you know, what's going on and what you should really be working on. Yeah, this is really awesome. And it is possible. Actually, when we gave you that task, I was like, hey, well, no chance how this is going to work, right? And look what he came back with. And I really like the creativity also. I mean, like, I love that part when I first heard about you guys like taking out characters out of the font to save additional kilobytes and stuff like this. And this is what I love about the Ryte team, right?
Dedication.
They have a challenge, and how do we get that shit done, right? And it's not settling for 85. It's not settling for a 99. It's settling for 100, really like acing the task. And you guys really have risen to the occasion and made that happen. So, yeah, thank you so much. And also sharing this, all of this information. Also, now we have it here on video, and actually people can watch it, since we had to delete the Clubhouse session. But again, it would also have great to have that as a blog post, maybe also in different parts with the best practice for the cookie consent banner, because I think lots of people have that problem, and I think this way with the on interaction part is actually
in regard to SEO.
I missed out twice. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. I stopped talking because I mean, like, really,
I can't talk anymore.
Yeah,
my mind is
you knocked it out of the ballpark. Yeah, you knocked it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for watching.
Yes.
I think there's a couple of people that are going to rewatch this a couple of times. So yeah, good luck with that. Have fun doing so. Yeah, if your mind is blown, you know, it's the weekend, so it's all good. Get yourself a drink. Enjoy the sunny weather. Yesterday we had snow, now it's sun again. So enjoy the sunny weather. Enjoy your weekend, and happy optimizing.
Prost. Bye. Bye, everyone.